An incredible VFL performance means there's debuts imminent, a return of the Wombat. Let's talk about it. In the VFL, Collingwood took on the undefeated Giants, and it was right before the Collingwood Crows game, and the weather was just atrocious, right? Now, I wanted to go to Vic Park to watch it, and I just wasn't able to get there preparing for the Collingwood Crows game. So I did watch it on my TV, and I was watching it when I was at the Collingwood Crows game because it just wasn't going to line up. But I loved a lot of what I saw, and defeating the undefeated, I think people are going to stand up and start saying, hang on, the Collingwood VFL side might just be not here to make up the numbers. So I think this game was a bit of a coming of age performance from not only the VFL side just in general, but the VFL players and the Collingwood the senior listed players who are starting to make a name for themselves. The first quarter started off with the Giants kicking the first couple, and then along comes a guy named Charlie West who takes a hanger and kicks the first goal. He finishes with 3 for the game, but it wasn't just, you know, Charlie West. Yes, this guy's averaging 3.5 goals a game or whatever it is, and it looks absolutely incredible. But it's the roles and the likes of, you know, a TJ in defense. It's Harry Di Mattia, who now, you know, they were trying him off the halfback, off a wing. He is an inside mid through and through. He is just racking up numbers, and we'll talk a little bit about that later when we start getting into stats and stuff like that. But it's, you know, it's Oleg Markov, it's Tom Mitchell, and then you look at the other guys. It's for the VFL. It's Josh Brown. It's Gray. It's Mahoney. It's all these sort of players that they're saying, hang on, we are here to play. We've had a couple of years in the system now, and, you know, there's no more Mr. Nice Guy. So like I said, the Giants kicked the first 2, and then we go and kick 4 unanswered goals, and we end the first quarter on top. And it was everything you sort of want to watch in a gritty Victoria Park VFL game. And in one of the comments on my Collingwood, the review of the Collingwood Crows game, someone said, and I can't remember who it was, so I'm sorry about this, but they said, you know, it reminded them of a 70s, 80s game at Victoria Park, gritty, rain, mud. And this Collingwood Giants game was exactly that. So it was like it was from the 70s and 80s, because these two teams were just absolutely hitting heads. They both finished with 73 tackles each, and it was just a close game all throughout. So in the second and third quarter, pretty much for the rest of the game, that's when it started turning into a grind. So in the second quarter, it started raining more heavily. It's more fumbles, it's more chaotic ball, and that's when it turned into a real grind. It was just end-to-end stuff. So this is where the likes of Di Mattia and Tom Mitchell, Josh Brown really stood up. And it was, you know, Tom Mitchell is just, you know, I love him, right? I love Tom Mitchell. Last week, he makes his Collingwood VFL debut. He plays 50% of game time. He goes off at halftime, has a good return after 380 days out. He was supposed to play 75% of game time, and, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he played the whole entire game, which was great to see. Even if he played 75%, great to see. He finished with 20 plus disposals, 13 tackles. Now, that's what you want from your guy that is your Wombat. You remember the grand final? What did he have? He had about 14 or so tackles in the AFL grand final in 2023. That's what you want from Tom Mitchell. You know, we'll make another video. Is there going to be a room for Tom Mitchell and Ned Long in the seniors? I think there will be, but we can talk a little bit about that later. But what I've been seeing from Tom Mitchell is this guy is hungry. There's been plenty of talk of, you know, does he end his career this year or does he go on? This guy is absolutely hungry. And talking about hungry, Harry Di Mattia, 8 inside 50s, 4 clearances. What did he have? 25 or something possessions. 20 of those were contested, and inside mid through and through. At the start of the video, I said that there was debuts imminent. Charlie West is obviously one of them, kicked 3 goals, but Di Mattia is right on his heels. I've been loving what he's been doing these last 2 weeks. If last week was Di Mattia's best game for the club, this week against the Giants was his next best game for the club, probably even better than he was last week. What I loved about this game was the fourth quarter. No goals were kicked, but Charlie Dean and Sam Glover were absolutely standing up, marking everything. And, you know, there's talks about us looking at intercept markers and stuff like that in the mid-season draft. But Charlie Dean is coming on so well. What did they have together? They combined for 25 intercept possessions, and I'm surprised Sam Glover isn't being talked about by any of the clubs to be brought on, because he's just leading the charge as our captain, and in that back line, just doing everything that he's told to do. And same with Charlie Dean. I'm seeing Charlie Dean grow, especially from the start of the year where I said that he probably wasn't going to cut it and Reef had already gone past him. Charlie Dean is taking the next steps. He must have taken that personally, because he's taking the next steps. And I'm starting to see that intercept third tall defender that we kind of want him to be. Like, you know, taking the place of a Jeremy Howe. Probably doesn't take the place of a Billy Frampton as that real big stop full back. But I think there is a place for Charlie Dean in the side, you know, and, you know, there's going to be a place for TJ as well. And Rod Ali, will talk a little bit about him in a second. But like I said, my standout players, Tom Mitchell, Harry Di Mattia, Charlie West, Dean and Glover did really, really well. I really want to talk about Rod Ali. So he is a intercept marking player. So he came from the Eastern Rangers, has played 2 games with Collingwood's VFL side. We are heavily into him. It doesn't rack up the numbers, but his presence, his physicality, and his agility are pretty much second to none at the moment. And I know I always say that halfbacks are a dime a dozen at Collingwood. We do have a lot of them. But I'm loving what he's been putting out. And I just had a talk with Jonty from Craft of the Draft. The video will come out a little bit later about mid-season prospects and, you know, about our draft prospects a little bit later in the year. And he had so much positive stuff to say about Rod Ali. So definitely keep an eye out for him if he does play as that 23rd man in the VFL this week. So what does this mean for Collingwood's VFL side going forward? I think it means that we just put our star on the map, and it just shows, you know, beating an undefeated side, we just say that we're not here to make up the numbers. And what that does is, when the AFL side go deep into finals, you want your VFL side to be there next to them so you can, you know, see how players are performing and if they get dropped and all that sort of stuff like that. You need that to make, you know, to go into finals, because you don't want to be a finals side in the AFL and you don't have any twos and they're just training or just playing scratch matches against themselves. You want to be competing as well. And I know our VFL side has been uncompetitive these last couple of years, but what Odden has been able to do with this team, and just that grittiness of this win and then just locking down in that last quarter, it says a lot about the heart of the Pies and just the mentality, and not only for the VFL, but for the AFL as well. We're starting to gel together really, really well, and it's becoming a very good fast track for these players like Di Mattia, TJ, Charlie West, Will Hayes, Cochrane as well, to come through the ranks. And when they're playing in the AFL, we know that they're ready to go. We've seen it with Ned Long. We've seen it with Ed Allen. We've seen it with Lockie Sullivan. So we're becoming a real synergy machine, and I just love it. So I reckon Charlie West debuts next week against the Roos. You would think so. I would love to see Di Mattia in the middle, but I don't know who he takes over as an inside mid. Maybe they give, you know, Lockie Sullivan a chop out, even though he's been playing well, and then just give Di Mattia a go and see if that works out. But we'll see. Let me know your thoughts down below. Did you watch the VFL match? You know, right? You know Charlie West is going to debut next week if his foot holds up. Let me know your thoughts down below. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets, and I'll see you next time. Double shackers. I'll swoop you later.